When I, 27F, was 18, I got accepted into my dream college. It was something I worked so hard for. It wasn't just any school either. This was a school with one of the best programs in the country for what I wanted to do. I had worked really hard for that acceptance. I worked hard to balance my grades with extracurriculars, and honestly, I was over the moon about it. It felt like all my hard work was finally paying off, and I could see my future unfolding in front of me. But right before I was about to accept my offer, my dad sat me down for a serious talk. He had started a small business a few years back, and while it wasn't failing, it was definitely struggling. He was overwhelmed, working long hours, and couldn't keep up with the growth he was trying to push for. I knew he had been putting in long hours to try to keep it afloat. He told me he was in over his head and couldn't manage things on his own anymore. He said that if I stayed and helped him grow the business, it would be mine one day. It would be our legacy, and it would be something I could eventually pass on to my own kids. He made it sound like this incredible opportunity, but I was torn between two opportunities. On the one hand, I had my whole future planned out with college, internships, and eventually a dream job in my chosen field. On the other hand, I couldn't shake the guilt. This was my dad, someone who had always provided for me, and he needed me. Plus, the idea of owning a business one day did sound appealing. I thought maybe I could help him out for a while, learn the ropes, and eventually take it over like he promised. I thought about it for days. It wasn't an easy decision, but in the end, I turned down my college acceptance. It wasn't because I didn't want to go, but because I genuinely believed I could help the business grow, and maybe, just maybe, build something bigger for my future than a degree could offer. I wasn't giving up on my dreams. I was just taking a different path, or at least that's what I told myself. For the next 8 years, I put everything into that business. The first few years were hard, but the business eventually started to grow. I worked my butt off. I'm talking long hours, weekends, the whole 9 yards. I pretty much sacrificed my entire social life because I was convinced that this business was going to be my future. Eventually, I wasn't just an employee, but I was basically running the place alongside my dad. Slowly but surely, the business started to grow. We gained more clients, made more money, and things were looking good. It felt rewarding to see the fruits of my labor, and I thought that all my hard work was going to pay off. I was so invested because I believed this was going to be my future. My dad kept reminding me that one day, this company would be mine. All of that made me feel for the longest time that I had made the right decision to stay with my dad in the business. Then, about 2 years ago, out of nowhere, my younger brother, we'll call him James, 24M, decided that he didn't like his current career in tech anymore. He had been doing pretty well for himself, but he claimed it wasn't fulfilling and that he wanted to join the family business. He had always been the golden child. My parents couldn't stop ranting and raving about how smart and talented he was, even when he barely lifted a finger. So when he announced that tech wasn't fulfilling for him anymore and that he wanted to join the family business, I should have seen trouble coming. But at first, I thought it might not be so bad. I mean, we were both adults at this point and whatever happened in the past was behind us. I even thought that maybe with both of us working together, the business would succeed even more. Well, I was dead wrong. The second James stepped into the business, my dad started treating him like he was the second coming of Steve Jobs. Suddenly, all of my ideas and contributions were ignored, and everything James suggested was somehow brilliant even if it was stuff I had been doing for years. My dad started giving him more responsibilities and credit for things I had been working on. It was like I didn't exist anymore. And it hurt. After everything I'd done to help build this company, I was being sidelined. It all came to a head when my dad called me into his office one day. He told me that I should step aside to give James the spotlight because he had the vision to take the business to the next level. I was flabbergasted. I had given up college, my friends, and my entire young adult life for this business, and now I was being asked to step aside like I was nothing? I refused, of course, but my dad made it clear that he didn't want me involved anymore. He said I should pursue something else and even had the nerve to say he regretted giving a chance to a loser like me. So, just like that, I was out. I didn't get any warning or a single apology from my dad. I was just kicked out of the business I had helped build from the ground up. I was devastated, but I knew that I had no choice other than to move on. I left my parents' house, found a tiny apartment, and started looking for a job. But after years of running a business, I realized I didn't want to work for someone else. So I started my own consulting firm. It was tough at first, but I stuck with it. I used everything I had learned over the years to help small businesses grow and succeed. A year later, my firm took off. I landed a few big clients, and soon, I was making more money than I ever had working for my dad. The business started getting attention in the local media and over social media because I also expanded into that field. Anyway, one day, I was featured in a local newspaper as one of the rising stars in the industry. It felt amazing to finally get some recognition for my hard work. And wouldn't you know it, my dad reached out to me after that. After a year of not speaking to me at all, he suddenly called me up. He was all apologetic and sweet. He said he had made a mistake, and that he was proud of me. He told me that he had seen the article about my success. I didn't really know what to say to him, but I awkwardly thanked him. He tried to continue making small talk, but I knew that he only called me because he needed something. So I asked him point blank what he wanted. He tried to say that it was nothing at first, but eventually, he told me that James was struggling with the business. Apparently, he wasn't as much of a genius as my dad thought. Wow. Shocker. My dad then asked if I could come back and help him out. Or, at the very least, share some of my success with my brother. To say I was furious would be the biggest understatement of the century. After everything they put me through, I can't believe that they had the nerve to ask for my help now. The same brother who took my place, the same dad who kicked me out, now wanted me to save their sinking ship. I told him that I had built my own success from scratch after he threw me away, and there was no way I was going to share it with anyone, especially not James. I told him clearly that I was not going to help him fix the mess he made. I didn't owe him or James anything, and I certainly wasn't going to bail them out after how they treated me. It's been a few days since that conversation with my dad, and honestly, I don't know if I'm being petty. I've been thinking it over, and now I'm beginning to feel bad about the way I spoke to my dad. Part of me feels like I should just let it go, but I can't shake the anger I feel about how they treated me. So, Ida for refusing to help them after what they did to me? Update 1. Hey everyone. Thanks so much for all the support and advice in the comments. I didn't expect this to blow up the way it did, but I figured I owe you all an update. A lot of people ask me about the work I actually did for my dad's business, so I'll start there and then get into what happened recently. So, when I started working for my dad, the business was pretty outdated. They didn't even have a proper website or any online presence. Not to mention, a lot of things were being done manually. One of the first things I did was revamp the company's entire digital presence. I built a new website from scratch, set up social media accounts, and even worked on online ads, which brought in a lot more customers. I also helped optimize the supply chain, negotiated better deals with suppliers, and found ways to cut costs without sacrificing quality. On top of that, I developed some key partnerships with other local businesses, which really boosted our revenue. But, despite all that, my dad never really gave me any credit. He always treated me like an assistant. In his head, it was like I was just helping out with small tasks and not the person who was actually driving the company's growth. Even when we saw a significant increase in profits, he'd act like it was just a stroke of good luck or timing, and would never think or act like it was because of everything I did. It was frustrating, but I put up with it because I believed that someday the business would be mine, like he promised. There were also a lot of questions about my brother, James. To put it simply, he's always been the golden child in our family. He never really had any clear direction in life. He always tried a bit of everything but never stuck with anything. He barely did any work, and for some reason, my parents still praised him to the heavens and back. My brother obviously basked in all their praise and essentially would do everything he could to rub it in my face. He would bully me a lot as a child, and then convince our parents that I was the one in the wrong. Typical sibling stuff. Except, he never grew out of it. When he joined the company, he essentially acted like he was the boss. He'd convince my dad that whatever I was saying was wrong, and then he'd pitch the exact same thing I said, and my dad would love it. Yeah. He's that kind of guy. Anyway, we haven't really had the best relationship, and I'm actually comfortable with that now because of everything that's happened. After the last conversation I had with my dad, he wouldn't stop calling. He kept asking to meet up. He said that it was important and that we needed to talk. I ignored him for a while, but eventually, my curiosity got the best of me. A lot of you pointed out in the comments that it would probably be best that I kept my distance from my dad and my brother, but I needed to know what my dad wanted. Part of me wanted to see if he had realized how wrong he was. I thought he'd maybe admit at least partially that he was wrong, but I wasn't expecting a full apology or anything. I agreed to meet up with my dad. When I got to the diner we were meeting at, I wasn't happy to see James there too. I thought it would just be my dad and me, but apparently, my brother decided to tag along. Right off the bat, the meeting was tense. My dad didn't waste any time downplaying my success. He basically said that I got lucky with my business and that I should be grateful because, without him, I wouldn't have the skills to succeed. He also threw in that I owed the family because I learned everything from working with him. That was infuriating to hear, especially after everything I did to help grow his business while getting zero credit. I told him that, and that only made my dad more frustrated than usual. My dad and I went back and forth for a while because I noticed that James started panicking. He admitted that he's been struggling since I left, which, yeah, I knew that. That was the reason we had even met up that day. He told me that he had no idea how to run a business, and apparently, things have gotten really bad. Just when I thought that at least my brother had some decency, he began blaming me for abandoning them. He said that if I hadn't left, none of this would be happening. Classic. I pretty much scoffed at him and told him to be real with me for a second. The only reason I even left the company was because our dad decided that James was better than me. Dad told me himself that I was a loser and that he regretted letting me handle the business. I had absolutely no blame on me at all. That's when James revealed that the business was on the verge of bankruptcy. My jaw dropped. When I left, the business was thriving, and it's only been a year. I couldn't believe it had gotten that bad so fast. James explained that our dad had been hiding the true financial records from him. Turns out, the business started failing right after my brother joined the company. My dad was covering it up the whole time because he hoped that things would magically turn around. Obviously, they didn't. They're deep in debt now, and the business is barely staying afloat. Apparently, a lot of deals I set up had either fallen apart or weren't renewed because my brother didn't know how to maintain them. They lost suppliers and business partners, and customers started dropping off when the quality dipped. It was just a disaster all around. The meeting ended with them practically begging me to come back. Not to run the business, mind you, but to help my brother so he could stay in charge. I think all I'm ever going to feel around them now is flabbergasted. After everything that happened, did they seriously expect me to swoop in, save the day, and let my brother take the credit again? I told them I'd think about it, but honestly, I don't see how I could ever go back. I'm really torn because part of me feels bad for my dad and the mess they're in, but at the same time, I know I'd just be walking into the same toxic situation all over again. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but I'll keep you all posted. Thanks again for the advice and for sticking with me through this. It helps more than you know. Update 2. It's been 2 weeks since my last post, and honestly, things just keep getting worse. Yesterday, I decided to reach out to my dad, not because I changed my mind about helping him, but because I wanted to see the financial records of the business. Something about this whole situation wasn't sitting right with me. If my brother really messed up the company, I needed to know how bad things were. I was still on the fence about helping them out because I had spent 8 years of my life, pouring my blood, sweat, and tears into growing the company. That company was my baby, and the fact they ruined it so fast made my heart break. I wanted to know that if I made the decision to help them out, the company was salvageable. I figured the least I could do was check the records to confirm everything. Maybe it could also give me some closure. But when I actually saw the records, I think my eyes popped out of my skull in shock. At first, things looked normal: payroll, vendor payments, and regular expenses. But as I kept digging, I noticed a ton of strange transactions. These weren't just the occasional extra charge either. There were recurring purchases that had absolutely nothing to do with the business. And they were all marked as business expenses. I'm talking about expensive personal shopping, luxury hotel stays, high-end electronics, and fancy dinners that didn't include any clients. It wasn't a case of someone accidentally mixing up personal and business accounts either. These charges were there so frequently that it was obvious that this was intentional. Whoever did it was burning through the company's money like it was their personal piggy bank. I couldn't for the life of me figure out why my dad would blow through company money that way. My dad had always been ridiculously strict about finances, and spending company money like this just wasn't something he would ever do. He's been running the business for years without a single issue. And then it hit me. It wasn't Dad, but it was his favorite child, and now the CEO of the business, James. I immediately called James and asked if he was spending company money on personal expenses. I expected him to show at least a little regret or embarrassment. But instead, he admitted that he was the one spending business money for fun without any hesitation. He even told me that he wasn't sorry about it. According to him, I got to enjoy 8 years worth of luxury because of my work at the company, and now it was his turn to enjoy that. I couldn't believe that he thought that I was sitting in the lap of luxury while working on my dad's business when in reality I was sleeping maybe 4 hours max a day. After that phone call, I went straight to my dad to tell him what I found out. I laid everything out, every unnecessary purchase, every sketchy transaction, and told him that James was the one behind it all. I thought he'd be shocked or at least angry at my brother for jeopardizing the business. But considering James is my dad's favorite child who can do no wrong, I should not have expected him to react that way. Instead of being upset, my dad defended my brother. He told me that my brother was only acting out because he was stressed after I left the company. Apparently, my brother had been under so much pressure to manage things on his own, that spending the money was his way of coping with everything. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My dad was trying to justify my brother's reckless spending by blaming me for leaving. I tried, and I mean, really tried to keep my emotions in check. I calmly explained to my dad that what he was saying didn't make any sense. I told him that the stress my brother felt didn't justify him blowing through the business's finances and putting the company at stake. But the more I talked, the angrier my dad got. He kept insisting that I just didn't understand and that I was being too hard on my brother. At that point, I realized there was no getting through to him. No matter what I said, my dad was determined to see me as the problem and my brother as the victim. Talking to him was like talking to a brick wall. So, I left. But things didn't end there. This morning, I woke up to a flood of notifications on my phone. They were all texts, emails, and DMs from clients and friends. Most of them were asking me if what they saw in the news was true. I had no idea what they were talking about, so I went online and found out that my dad went to the local news station and did an interview. In the interview, he dragged my name through the mud. He said that I abandoned the family business when it needed me the most. He made it sound like I was some selfish, spoiled brat who left them in the dust without a second thought. He blamed me for every issue the company was facing. He conveniently left out the part where he favored my brother's work over mine, gave him the business that he promised me, and James spent company money on things that had nothing to do with business, leading to the business's downfall. I can't even describe how I feel right now. I'm hurt, I'm angry, and, honestly, I'm just lost. I thought I'd reached a point where I was okay with everything that happened to me. But, my dad going to the press to slam me like that? It's a whole new level of humiliation and betrayal. And now I don't know what to do. I've worked so hard to build a good reputation, and this interview has put all of that at risk. I keep thinking about how many clients will believe what my dad said and whether this will hurt my business moving forward. I've always been proud of what I've built, and the idea that it could all come crashing down because of my own family makes me feel sick. I know I can't control what other people believe, but that doesn't make this any easier to deal with. I feel stuck. Part of me wants to fight back and set the record straight, but another part of me wonders if it's even worth it. All it will become is drama for people to tune into, and it will not help my reputation at all. I don't know where to go from here, but I know one thing for sure: I can't keep letting my family pull me down. I've come too far to let them ruin everything I've built. I could really use some advice on what to do here, so feel free to give me your wildest and most creative ideas to set things straight. Thanks for reading if you made it this far, and I'll be sure to update you whenever this is sorted out. Update 3. Hey everyone, it's been about 7 months since my last update, and wow, a lot has happened since then. First off, I just want to thank everyone who commented on my previous posts. I read through every single suggestion, and honestly, some of them had me laughing out loud. You all really helped make a dark time a lot lighter, and I appreciate it more than I can say. Now on to the update. After reading through the comments, I took some of your advice to heart and decided to consult a lawyer. I figured it was time to get serious about what was happening, especially after everything my dad had done with that interview. The lawyer told me I had a pretty solid case if I wanted to sue my dad for defamation and slander. He was dragging my name through the mud publicly, and it was impacting my reputation and business. At first, the idea of suing my own dad felt, I don't know, wrong. I really struggled with it for days. I didn't want to take legal action against my own father. I mean, yeah, he betrayed me on more than one occasion, but, did that really make it okay for me to sue him? But eventually, I came up with an idea that I thought would be a good compromise. So I reached out to my dad and asked him to meet up. I didn't tell him what it was about. I just wanted to get him there so we could talk. When we met, I didn't let him get a word in. I told him that I only asked him to meet me because he had a choice to make. I gave him 2 options: either I sue him for defamation and slander, or he signs the business over to me, no strings attached, and he and my brother have nothing more to do with it. I told him that because he kept blaming me for ruining his business, this was his chance to prove it. He could either let me have it and see if I truly ruin it, or deal with a lawsuit and actually end his company. To say he was shocked would be an understatement. He was silent for a few seconds before he threw a huge fit. He started yelling about how I was being unreasonable and how I was trying to steal his business. but I stayed calm and serious the whole time. I told him I'd give him 3 days to make a decision, and if I didn't hear from him, I'd go ahead with the lawsuit. I walked out after that because I didn't want to deal with him yelling at me anymore. 3 days later, he called me and said he'd sign over the business. He wasn't happy about it at all. In fact, he made it very clear that he didn't want to give it to me, but I guess he realized he didn't have much of a choice. My brother, on the other hand, completely lost it when he found out. He threw a huge tantrum and accused me of stealing his company. But honestly, at that point, I didn't care anymore. They'd both made their choices and now they had to live with them. The past few months have been hectic, to say the least. Managing my dad's old business while also running my own consulting firm has been a lot to handle, but I've been doing okay. It's been hard, especially with the bad press and all the damage my brother did, but I'm seeing slow improvements. I've been fixing the messes they left behind and rebuilding relationships with clients. While it's not an overnight success, things are moving in the right direction. Oh, and guess what? The same local news station that my dad went to for that awful interview reached out to me for my side of the story. I decided to take the high road. In the interview, I didn't reveal too much or throw my dad under the bus. I just said that I was in a rough place and wasn't contributing much to the company, so I thought it would be best to leave my dad's firm. However, seeing my dad's interview made me realize that I needed to go back, so I took over the business because I felt terrible for my dad and wanted to help. It actually ended up working in my favor. People started seeing me as the bigger person, and it actually gave the business a much needed boost in image. As for my dad and brother, I haven't spoken to either of them since that whole ordeal. They've completely cut me off. They've blocked me on everything and refused to respond to anything I send them. It stings, I won't lie. It hurts to know that they won't admit they were wrong and that they'd rather push me out of their lives than face reality. But at the same time, I feel weirdly relieved. I'm so glad that I don't have to deal with their drama anymore, and honestly, it feels like karma finally came back around for them. And, I guess, that's it. It's been a tough journey, but I'm proud of how far I've come. The business is slowly getting back on its feet, and my consulting firm is thriving. I've got my hands full, but at least I'm in control of my own life now. Thanks again to everyone who gave advice and supported me through all of this. You guys helped more than you'll ever know, and I'll forever be grateful to you.